Hey, what's going on? I'm Patrick Jaguar, the Cosmic Alchemist, and welcome to my September 2020 astrological forecast. So, it's been a little while since I put a video out. My July was late and never got around to it for August, but I moved into a new place and had a lot of shit storms flying my way, and so I just never got to it, but we're back on track now. So, there's a lot to say for September here. September is going to be a month to remember. And as I point out, I keep saying this, that, you know, September is going to be a crazy month. And well, I keep saying every month it's going to be a crazy one. But we're going to see some fireworks in September. And some big things for September. We're going to see more violence. We're going to see more riots. We're going to see more rioting and looting and assaults, and, you know, maybe even worse. It's going to be called peaceful protesting. That stuff's not protesting. That's just violence. It doesn't unify anyone, and it doesn't help anything. But when people feel desperate, they do things like that, thinking that it's going to solve something. So September is going to be, and Mars is the main player in September. Mars is going to go retrograde. Mars is going to go retrograde on the 10th. It's going to station on the 9th, so it's going to stand still on the 9th, and then it's going to retrograde the next day. So that day when Mars stands still, that's really where the window opens for some crazy things to happen. Like I said, more rioting, looting, you know, you're going to see businesses being set on fire, stuff like that. People getting beat up for wearing the wrong hat and the wrong t-shirt by, ironically enough, people from the party of compassion and open-mindedness. I don't take a side politically. Political parties are ridiculous. They're counterproductive, and they destroy countries just like George Washington said they would. But, you know, the ironic thing is that the Republican Party here in the United States they've had assholishness figured out for a long time, and I think the Democrats are equal to them and maybe have even surpassed them, because there's no liberal party anymore. You get two conservative parties competing against each other. You know, conservatism is all about, it's all about conformity, it's all about compliance, it's all about groupthink. So, you know, there's no plurality of viewpoints and perspectives. It's all about you're with us or you're against us. So that's what all this violence we're going to see in September, and volatility and anger and hatred. There's hatred on both political sides. It's not just the right. It's not just the Republicans. All that it's really going to be driven by delusion and arrogance and self-importance. So, you know, really my advice, my big takeaway for this video is, here in the month of September and for the rest of the year and for the rest of your life, get over yourself, because we're all important, but at the same time, our expectations are not important. You know, human lives are all important. Our freedom, our dignity is important, but you're not important. I'm not that important. Our expectations they're creations of our egos. So, you know, get over yourself and get over your expectations and find something in your life that you can improve, that you actually have control over. And don't fight with people over television characters on reality TV shows. And these television characters are politicians, and the reality TV is the news. It's made by multi-billion-dollar corporations so they can make money. It's not about informing you because you own a business, you went to college, you were in the military, you raised kids, you own a house, your parents, your grandparents won World War II. Nobody cares about any of that. People who run this world, they're not keeping you in the loop and tripping over themselves to come deliver you and spoon feed you the truth. So don't believe everything you read and hear just because you like the source and you like the sound of what's being said. Because the news in both parties, they run everything on Madison Avenue advertising techniques. They have brands and they market and sell those brands. And they know the psychology of the people who are going to buy their brand, who are going to subscribe to their brand. So it's all that simple. So focus on your life. Focus on being being the better person. Don't ridicule people just because they disagree with you. Or because they tell you something that couldn't possibly be true because you would have known it otherwise. So take control of your life. Find some things to be happy about. Find some things to work towards and look forward to. And improve yourself and improve your life any way you can. And let the drama go on. Because, really, it's like Mark Twain said, if voting really mattered, it would be illegal. And the quicker we find this out and we acknowledge this, the quicker we can change the world for the better. So check that anger and that ego energy from Mars this month. And another thing about all this political fiasco is that you've got two guys pushing 80 running for president. And, older people have a lot of wisdom, they have a lot of perspective, but you have to balance, the old conventional wisdom with the energy of growth and moving forward and doing something different. You always have to have a balance. So, I really look at this race as this is like the last throes of the paradigms, the worldview and the mindset of the baby boom generation, because that generation, they basically grew up in a bubble with unprecedented prosperity, and they really took it for granted, and they thought they got that prosperity because their parents won World War II and we're just such good people. Of course we now live in unprecedented prosperity. It's not that simple, and really our government and the corporations and the banks that own our government did some really crazy things around the world and in our country to create and maintain that prosperity. So we have a lot of karma coming due too, and it's going to be the karma of, especially the karma of everything that happened during the Cold War, and the karma of the really kind of the willful ignorance of the people in this country during those years, when they were high on alcohol and cocaine, and they were smoking weed and being consumers while all kinds of dirty wars are going on around the world, and you name it. So it's kind of like it's like a twilight of the gods, kind of like Ragnarok, or at least the twilight of people who think they're gods. Like these two candidates, because it's like they're both turds, honestly. It's like we can't do better than this. So I don't want to go off on that much, but if you don't like these people running for president and you wonder why, go look in the mirror. I tell that to everyone, and I tell that to myself too. So, these two people who, are part of this dying paradigm, they're not bringing any renewal, and they can't offer a new future. All they can offer is just more of the same. they're just going to dust off World War II feel-good propaganda, or they're going to dust off some civil rights era propaganda. They're just going to dust off something old and try to just give you more of the same. And the thing about life is you have to move forward. You're not allowed to just go back to some good old days that make you feel good, whether that was the New Deal or World War II or the civil rights movement or the Reagan era or the Clinton era. It's not that simple. And none of those times were as good as the media makes you think they were. And the thing about the media too is that everything that our parents and our grandparents taught us about this country and how the world works pretty much came from the media. Because, my grandparents from the World War II generation, two of those four grandparents learned English by going to the movies. So everything they know about this country, they learned it at the movie theater in the 1930s and 40s, when you spent the whole 8 hours on a Saturday in there watching two movies and news and cartoons and short stories, and then they watched TV after that. So they were great people. They worked hard. They did a good job helping to raise me, but they knew what they knew, and they didn't know what they didn't know. And they were not aware of what they did not know. So that's a mouthful, but that's another thing too, is save some room for what you don't know that you don't know. There's a lot out here we all don't know, and save room for some new ideas and some new realities, really. So yeah, so don't look for renewal and a better future from these two candidates, Biden or Trump, the Donald or the Goofy, because they can't give you new. They can just give you more of the same. That's not working. And if it was going to work, it would have worked. Everything that was done in the last 70 years. So, got to move on here. So, I want to look at my notes here. Another thing I wanted to say. So, about that Mars causing all this anger and discontent. So, Mars is not only going to station on the 9th and go retrograde on the 10th, and it's going to retrograde for about 7 or 8 weeks, but early October, it's going to be Gandanta. So Gandanta is when a planet goes between a water sign and a fire sign. So Mars is going to go from Aries back to Pisces. Aries is fire, Pisces is water. So those last 2 degrees of Pisces, 28 and 29 degrees, planets feel like they're drowning in that space. And it causes this feeling of desperation. And since Mars is the planet of action and energy and vitality and volatility and violence and warfare and weapons, it lashes out when it feels desperate. So it does that in Pisces, and it does it especially in those last 2 degrees of Pisces, 28th and 29th. And Mars, it's going to go back and forth. It went over this point once last month to get here, where it is now in Aries. It's going to go back over it in October, and then it's going to pass it again on between December 22nd and 25th, so around the winter solstice and the Christmas holiday. So we're going to have a couple different windows of this volatility. So you got that from Mars, and then another thing that's going on here too is that Rahu and Ketu on the 14th. Let me double check that date. I've got software on my smartphone, and I have software on my laptop, and the software on the laptop is a hell of a lot better in terms of calculating Rahu and Ketu. Okay, so that's going to be the 19th. So Rahu and Ketu are going to go to 0 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius, respectively, and then on the 19th, 5 days later, they're going to change signs. So Rahu's going to go from Gemini to Taurus, Ketu's going to go from Sagittarius to Scorpio. So this is going to bring a lot of stability. It's going to bring a feeling of safety and more calm back to the world. But this always comes with a little it's kind of it's like a trick or treat. I definitely believe there's always there's a silver lining to every rain cloud, but then like the Grateful Dead song "Touch of Gray," in every silver lining there's a touch of gray. So in every silver lining there's a little rain cloud too. It's yin and yang; they kind of go together. So Rahu and Gemini, Ketu and Sagittarius, you get these big, shocking, kind of tragic events like 9/11, like the AIDS virus, or like COVID-19. First off, like COVID-19, and like 9/11, 18 and a half years before that, because it takes Rahu and Ketu 18 and a half years to go around the zodiac. So we had COVID-19 during Rahu and Gemini, Ketu and Sagittarius. You had 9/11, you had the AIDS virus, you had JFK's assassination, and then America basically faking its way into the war in Vietnam with the falsified Gulf of Tonkin incident. And then before that, you had the bombs on Hiroshima, the atom bombs. So that happens when Rahu's and Gemini, Ketu's and Sagittarius, when they switch to Rahu and Taurus, Ketu and Scorpio, you get peace, but it can be a peace that's founded on some lies. So, after 9/11, we had the days of the Patriot Act, and then we got into the war in Iraq within that time frame. So, yeah, there was peace here domestically, but it was at the expense of other people, and it wasn't truthful. And then, with the AIDS virus, there's a great book called "And the Band Played On," and it's basically about how Dr. Fauci, when he was with CDC, National Institutes of Health, back in the 80s, a lot of people, particularly the gay community from the 1980s, felt like he was dragging his feet because he was playing politics, trying to take the credit for the discovery of the virus. So they felt like he was dragging his feet with a coordinated response. And the guys I know who are in their 50s and 60s, the gay men I know who lived through the AIDS outbreak, they don't have kind opinions about him. So check out that book, "And the Band Played On." And so after JFK died, you had, in this time of domestic peace, you had this war in Vietnam that it was like 2 or 3 million people, Vietnamese people died, and then it was like 60,000 Americans. And then after World War II, you had the National Security Act, which was basically starting a national security state and a police state that was modeled after the one in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. So yeah, you had peace, but it wasn't above board completely. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. I'll show you the chart for that. So those are pretty much the big things here. Another big thing too is we're going to have a full moon in Aquarius on the 2nd. So I started feeling this full moon coming probably on the 29th. So this is a big one. It's a full moon in Aquarius with a retrograde Neptune. So Aquarius is about the future, and it's about moving forward, and it's about things that are good for just we the people and everybody. But it's in there and it's about futurism and science and technology. But that full moon is in there with Neptune. It's a retrograde Neptune. So Neptune is a double-edged sword. Neptune is a great revealer, and Neptune is also a deceiver. But you can't be deceived unless you're delusional. So people get up in arms about people deceiving them, and you shouldn't be deceived by other people, but it takes two to tango. So if you've been deceived, you're also delusional about the people and the situations you were dealing with. So you always have to bear this in mind. But this full moon is really it's gonna get us thinking about, okay, how do we move forward for the good of all, and how do we improve circumstances for the good of all? This is really going to be on our minds. So the big takeaway is, don't let people fool you into thinking that they have the answers for you. Be your own person here, do your own thinking, and don't let somebody just hand you a bill of goods. Don't beware of people who come to you with perfect solutions, especially people who broadcast to all of us advertising perfect solutions, because if you're being naive about it, if you're being gullible about things, they're going to fool you and they're going to take you for a ride. So got to watch it. So, and then probably two other highlights is Mars and Jupiter coming out of retrograde this month. Jupiter's coming out on the 13th of September, and Jupiter and Saturn are coming out of retrograde. Jupiter's coming out on the 13th of September, and Saturn is coming out on the 29th. So we're going to feel like, by the end of this month, we're going to feel like things are getting done in the world. It's going to be slow and incremental, but because especially Saturn is the 3D world. Saturn is government and just all the institutions of the world. So it's going to, lately everybody in government on both sides they've been the big experts and they've had all the answers. But all they're really doing is just pointing the finger of blame, and they have no solutions. They're just criticizing, and they're just having juvenile name-calling competitions. So it doesn't matter if they're conservative or progressive or whatever the hell. They're all doing it. It's all a big dysfunctional family, and it's a big dysfunctional marriage. And dysfunctional couples, they blame each other for everything, and individually they can do no wrong. So it's just the whole political thing is just a macrocosm. It's just dysfunctional family, dysfunctional marriage, and the parents, the politicians, pull the children apart, and they get them fighting each other about which parent is right. So be mindful of this stuff. So those are pretty much the highlights. Let's get into the days. Let's get into individual days here. So 1st of September. So we start the month, we have Venus is at 0 degrees of Cancer. So 0 is the miracle degree. It's one of the miracle degrees. The sign is 30 degrees wide. So 0 degrees, 29 degrees. They're considered traditionally the miracle degrees. It's where there's potential for just really, really amazing, kind of astonishing things to happen. So Venus it's in Cancer. So Cancer is the sign of the moon. Venus and the moon are good friends. Their energies really jive together. So it's a good place for Venus. Cancer it deals with comfort, it deals with your home, your homeland. It's maternal energy, it's sustenance. And it has a lot to do with the material world and, kind of material comforts and things like that. So Venus is really trying to get comfortable here. And, Venus is our aesthetic sort of sense. It's our ability to feel pleasure, to enjoy the senses, to enjoy our bodies. It's social activity, it's romance, friendships, diplomacy. So it's like basically with this Venus at 0 degrees on the 1st of Cancer on the 1st of September, it's like we're trying to get comfortable, and everybody's really trying to get comfortable in the material world and just feel good. And this is tough because people have been out of work. They don't have as much money as they normally do. If they're working, a lot of people aren't making what they usually do, and our social activity is limited, so it's a tough time to get comfortable. But this placement means we're really striving for it, and I definitely think we're definitely moving towards it, because a thing about later in the month where Rahu moves from Gemini to Taurus, we're past the pandemic window, because people say, well, what does that mean? Pandemics are biological. Well, everything runs on energy in this world, and energy is controlled by our individual minds, our minds collectively, and then the big mind of the universe that people have called God. So pandemics break out where you have Rahu is not only moving through Gemini, but it's moving through a mini constellation or a nakshatra that's part of Gemini called Ardra. So Ardra symbolizes the teardrop and the howling winds and the tragic events. So when Rahu goes through here, historically, it's a no-fail. Or sometimes when Ketu's there, you get pandemics. It's like clockwork. So Rahu moves through Ardra, it goes to the next mini constellation, next nakshatra, Mrigashira. Mrigashira is all about the search for the cure. The symbol is the elixir of life, the elixir of immortality. So the window opens, Rahu and Ardra, for that pandemic to fly out, that energy potential to fly out. So it's not going to keep going on and on for years and years at the level it has. The virus will be floating around out there, but like all other coronaviruses. But the pandemic is going to wind down much quicker than people would think. So Mrigashira, this nakshatra constellation, it's partly in Gemini, partly in Taurus. So Rahu is going to still be in Mrigashira, but it's going to move to Taurus. So like I said, we're going to feel more stable, we're going to feel safer, things are going to feel more predictable. And I believe there's going to be some medical sciences, because in these times the medical sciences always have new cures, new methods, new techniques, new technologies. They may not be revealed within the next few months, but they're in the research phase and they're going to come out. Vaccines have been very useful, but they're over 200 years old, and science and technology and medicine need to evolve, and we're going to see new stuff. So it'll be pretty cool whenever that feels like coming out. So, another thing we have on this first day of September, and until October, until early October, when Mars goes back into Pisces, you've got Mars and Uranus in the same sign, and it's in Aries. Aries is leadership, and it's individuality too. So Mars is this activity and this warrior energy, and this vitality, and Uranus is the great awakener. Uranus sort of just like flips the whole chessboard over in the middle of the game and says, well, life goes on, you got to deal with it. Only thing you can count on is change. So a lot of people right now are striving to find their individuality and become the individuals they want to be. But Aries also pertains to our leaders. So people want to see change in the leadership on every level, from community to country to the whole world. So, and that's why a lot of people are protesting. So, and Mars has a lot to do with protest, because it's that active, sort of volatile energy. And another thing we have going on too on the 1st, you've got Jupiter and Ketu are still in the same sign. They're still in Sagittarius. So Jupiter is is higher learning, higher consciousness. Sagittarius is Jupiter's home sign, so it is at home, but it's retrograde, so there's some anger coming out of it. And Sagittarius is all belief systems, it's religions, philosophies, and Ketu is just pure spirituality and just wants to just sort of slough off all the bullshit and just have the real deal. But Ketu can also be extremist, so since it's in Sagittarius, which is the sign of belief systems, people are very extremist and fundamentalist about their belief systems. Political parties really are religions. There's really no way around that. There's never been a religion that wasn't political, and there's never been politics that didn't have a religious aspect, whether people know it or not. So people are extremely self-righteous about their beliefs right now and about what the truth is. There is no the truth in the entire universe. It's a construct of people's minds, really. The greatest thinkers in the world, they're experts on what goes on in their heads. They really lose the present moment. So everybody, not everybody, but the mainstream of people is very self-righteous, and they're getting radical and extremist and fundamentalist about their belief systems. So it's driving a lot of what we're seeing right now. So thankfully, by the 19th, Ketu's out of Sagittarius, thank God. Ketu's going to go to Scorpio, and this is going to really help us to dig deep within ourselves and figure out what are our problems, individually and as a group. So people are going to get out of each other's business more, in my opinion, and that'll be welcome. So, on to the next day. 2nd of September, day of the full moon. Full moon at 16 degrees of Aquarius. And like I said, that moon is with a retrograde Neptune. So the moon is your mind. The moon is our minds. The moon represents the mind. The sun represents the soul. And the mind is a reflector of the soul. It can't animate itself. It reflects the soul. So the mind reflects the soul of the person within. And the mind is not just the intellect, but it's the emotions, it's the personality, it's the memories, it's everything. So it's like your whole intangible self. So we have to be, since it's with Neptune in Aquarius, we have to be aware that we, the people, are not thinking clearly right now. We're allowing ourselves to be deceived because we're delusional. A lot of this is just from our arrogance and our self-importance. Again, we think that people with all the power and all the money in the world are going to tell us the truth on the networks we like, Fox News or CNN or NPR. It's like Fox News, CNN, those are money-making enterprises. NPR it's a donation magnet for people to offset their tax liability. It's all propaganda no matter where you get it. So you got to be mindful of that. Otherwise, you're going to be all pissed off, and you're going to be biting your nails. You're going to be nervous. Focus on your own life. Across from Aquarius, you're going to have Mercury in Leo. And of course, the sun is in Leo because sun and moon are always in opposite signs. On full moons, we're always looking at each other. So, with the sun in Leo, Leo is leadership, it's royalty, it's executive figures, like presidents. So we're really thinking about all that. And then with Mercury in there, our intellects are focused on leadership, what the leaders are doing, what the leaders are going to do, what the leaders are going to do for us, what the leaders are going to give us. And our intellects are looking across the chart into Aquarius, where this moon, this full moon, and Neptune are. So this full moon is going to highlight, where we're mentally delusional and where we're being deceived. It's also going to highlight, where are we going individually and collectively? Because again, Aquarius is all about, it's about progress for everyone. And it's about the future. It's about, where are we going? And it's about improving things for each and every one of us. So, moving on. Oh, come on. So we're going to jump to September 9th here. September 9th is the day where Mars stations at 4 degrees of Aries. So Mars has been moving forward from our perspective on Earth. When a planet stations, it stops. And then it goes retrograde. You don't have a retrograde without a stationing. So the planet moves forward, it stops or it stations, then it goes retrograde. So when planets station before they go retrograde, when they stand still, you kind of get a burst of energy, and a burst of energy with the qualities and the themes of the planet that's stationing and the sign it's in. So again, Mars in Aries with Uranus, so it's this kind of volatile, violent, aggressive, kind of angry energy that's all angry about our leadership in the world and about overturning it. So on that day, we're going to see, I think we're going to see a pretty quick uptick in violence and in this rioting and looting that's being called peaceful protesting by half of the news media. And remember, looting and violence and rioting, it's not protesting. It's just stupid. It doesn't accomplish anything. So, if you see pallets of bricks appear in your town and in your city, take some pictures, because a lot of people with a lot of money and a lot of power always stand to gain from rioting, violence, looting. The whole presidential race and the whole political battle, it's just two groups of billionaires fighting each other, and they each have a front man. One has the Donald Duck Trump, and then the other one has Goofy Joe Biden. It's a show. It's theater. It's a TV show. And each of these groups of billionaires has ways of making more money when their guy wins. And even when their guy doesn't win, they make money, because you got to remember, you got a left and a right wing, but they're attached to the same bird, and they're controlled by the same brain. So keep that in mind through all this. If you find you're getting pissed off about the news and about what's on Facebook and blah, 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 blah. So, that's the deal with that. But the 9th, look for an uptick in kind of this violent behavior, this angry, aggressive behavior from people. But, remember, we don't have the whole picture, and it's easy to manipulate us and get us angry. So then we move on to the 10th. Mars goes retrograde. So Mars is about almost 4 degrees of Aries where it starts going retrograde from its station. That nakshatra that it's in Aries is Ashwini. Ashwini is the nakshatra, or the constellation of the healers of the gods. So not just healers, but the healers to the gods, from the Vedic mythology. So the thing about this violence is that it's a symptom of just big problems that have been going on for a long time. And I'm not just talking, in the United States for the last 200-300 years. I'm talking about problems that have been in the world for thousands of years, because, slavery is a big topic. Well, slavery's been running the world, along with lies, for thousands of years now. And so people are really just not happy about the state of their lives and about how they have to work 40, 50, 60 or more hours to just have their basic essentials. And the news is redirecting people, and they're just saying, oh, just get a Democrat in office, get Bernie in office, get Biden in office, get Trump in office, things are going to get better. It's not that simple, because they're all part of the same system. Remember, the eagle has a left and a right wing, but they're controlled by the same brain. So, a lot of violence is going to take place, and it's sad that it's going to happen, but it's kind of like when you go through a healing crisis, basically. The world is healing, the country is healing, but we have to take our lumps, because people just can't. By and large, people don't have open enough minds to just do things differently, so they have to go through tough transition periods. So it's basically a healing crisis. So This angry, violent Mars retrograding through Ashwini means that, yeah, there's going to be violence, there's going to be rioting, but there's healing at the end of it. So, but there's going to be a lot of deception in it, and I don't mean to say that rioting and looting and protesting is going to fix everything, but when the peasants get all angry and they grab their pitchforks, people take notice. So it's unfortunate it has to work that way, but remember, if you think violence is the answer, it's not. And somebody with a lot of power and money wants you to think it is. And the news is really encouraging a lot of people to do this. So check yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Before you wreck someone else especially. All right. September 13th, we have Jupiter ending its retrograde. Jupiter is going to be going forward. It's going to be at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. So it'll have a few more days with Ketu to sort of generate that extremist energy, that ideologue, self-righteous energy and behavior before Ketu leaves. So one thing you're going to see with Jupiter moving forward is so Jupiter's also with Pluto. Pluto's pretty close by. What you often see when Jupiter and Pluto come together is you see some sort of a drop in the stock market. They met up in, let me see now. They met in Sagittarius back in December 2007, and that was a trigger for the financial collapse in September of 2008. So what we're going to see here is, I think from November through the beginning of the year, banks and businesses who just weren't doing things right, who weren't doing business responsibly, they're going to take a hit because we haven't really even seen the economic consequences of the whole COVID-19 phenomena. And another thing about COVID too is that there's a lot of spin going on. So ever since the collapse in 2008 and the bailout, those economic conditions were never fixed, and they were actually repeated. The subprime, the no money down thing, they brought that into the car loan business, and then they just started doing no down payment mortgages again, just to a lesser degree. So everything that happened in 2008 was never fixed. So Jupiter's come back again. It's met up with Pluto. It met Pluto once earlier. It was in May. They met up in Capricorn rather than Sagittarius, like back in 2007. And then they both retrograded back into Sagittarius. So Jupiter is making this year, let me see, it was 1, 2, 3 transits over Pluto. That's pretty unprecedented. It's like Mars going back and forth over the final degrees of Pisces. So Jupiter represents banking. So when you get Jupiter crossing over Pluto that many times, there's going to be a reckoning in banking. There's going to be some sort of a downturn. Not permanently, but it's going to be, for a few months, things will get a little shaky here. So, and later this year, it's going to be, what is it now, around the 25th of November, Jupiter's going to go into Capricorn, which is Saturn's home. So Jupiter's going to have to do things by Saturn's rules. So banks and people and investment houses who've been doing things, insurance companies who've been doing things responsibly, they can do really well in this time because Saturn is all about doing things the right way, doing things by the numbers, by the book, by the rules. So people in the financial world are going to reap what they sow at the end of this year and into next year. So I work with some people in that world, and they know what I'm talking about. They're responsible people, so good for them. So, all right. So yeah, that's the big thing with Jupiter entering that retrograde, is the economy in general is going to feel like it's going forward again. So that's going to help a lot of people feel better. And through all this, and let me see. So let me see, the 10th, I want to look at Mercury here. By about the second week of September, Mercury's also going to go into Virgo, and Mercury's going to be, let me see, in Virgo for, like till around the 20th? Yeah, till about the 21st, Mercury's going to be in Virgo. So Mercury in Virgo, it's where it's exalted, and Mercury's intellect. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. It's all about intellectual power. It's all about sorting details, doing hard work, getting tasks, thankless, tedious tasks done. So, in the world, we're going to be, all of us are going to be thinking about just getting things cleaned up, getting things cured, healing things, because Virgo also deals with medicine, deals with healing, deals with disease. So we're thinking about COVID, but we're just thinking about things in the world and in our lives that need to be healed and need to be fixed. So Mercury is a fixer, and in Virgo it definitely fixes things. So, and then, no, that was the only thing with that. All right. So September 14th, that's when Rahu and Ketu go to 0 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius respectively. So we've been through a hell of a time during this Gemini and Sagittarius transit of Rahu and Ketu. So it'd be kind of a good riddance, really. We learned a lot from COVID, and I think the big thing, when COVID first came to light that it was a thing, we had Pluto and Saturn conjunct, and let me see something here. So we had Pluto and Saturn pretty close together here. So, and Saturn, for most of this time that COVID's been going on, has been in Capricorn, its home sign. So Saturn is the 3D world, it's society, it's government, it's the law, it's doing things the right way. And Capricorn is the sign of society and government. So really, to me, COVID has been really teaching people it's about minding their own business is a big theme, because you got everybody in the world, just them and their politics and their ideology has all the answers for everybody. People who live thousands of miles away, they think they can micromanage their lives, and they think they know what's best for them. So Saturn, the planet of restrictions and boundaries and government and borders, has shut down borders and kept people from moving around. And this has really been an opportunity for us to reflect on ourselves and improve ourselves and heal ourselves and get our own shit together. So, it's been all about our own business and getting into our own business and fixing our own business. Like I said, I don't take a side in politics. I think they're both absurd. But, one thing that the left in the Western world talks about is they talk about having no borders and no boundaries. You have to have borders and boundaries in this world, because people have to know what they're responsible for. Country, if your neighbor came to your house and said, here's my electric bill, you want to pay this for me? You'd laugh at him and you'd think that was insane. So, or, you want to come clean my house up for me. So we have to have borders and boundaries. And when you don't have borders and boundaries, mentally and emotionally, things get really messy with people. And people, either you encroach on other people and you get into other people's business, or people get into your business. So COVID was teaching us that, that this world without any borders whatsoever, and defunded police, doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It's just chaos. And it's also, everybody gets up in everyone else's business. And basically they're hypocrites. Instead of fixing what's wrong with themselves and improving themselves, they try to go improve their neighbors or go across the world to improve other people. So because they think they know what's best. So COVID's been a blessing in that department. So, let me see. Alright, so there's that. So, yeah. So the 14th, Rahu and Ketu change sign. They stand still. So, and they stay at that 0 degree mark in Gemini and Sagittarius respectively for about 5 days. So, it's kind of the last burst of the way I look at it, it's like the last burst, especially from Ketu and Sagittarius, at that 0 miracle degree of Sagittarius. It's that last burst of just that extremist, radical, fundamentalist ideologue energy. People just pushing and impressing their belief systems on other people. So, but we're in the home stretch. That's almost out of our systems. Well, not completely, but intensely as it has been. So, 16th of September, Sun in Virgo. So, unlike last year, Mars will not be in Virgo with the Sun. Mars and the Sun in Virgo together last year, that was one of the signals and one of the triggers of COVID-19. Because, Virgo it's the sign where you have the vernal equinox, the fall equinox. It's where the sun starts declining into the southern hemisphere. You get an equinox, you get equal night and day. After that, the day after the fall equinox, you get longer night than day. So when the sun is not hot and, the sun is not sort of predominating over the moon, it's not giving us energy to sort of juice up our immune systems. So that's why in the fall, in the northern hemisphere, cold and flu season starts, because things cool down and the sun is not feeding us as much energy to boost our immune systems. So, and again, Virgo is illness, disease, cures, healing. So in the fall, if you get Sun and Mars and Virgo together, it's sort of a herald of a tough cold and flu season. So we certainly had that this year we just lived through. So, that was September 2019. You had Sun and Mars and Virgo together. So Mars, Sun, both fiery celestial bodies, made the cold and flu season very, sort of aggressive and robust. So this time we have, right on the day that the sun moves into Virgo, you've got Mercury there with it. So we're thinking about the details of healing and health and disease and curing disease. So that's very auspicious. All right, September 19th. Rahu and Ketu change signs. Rahu goes to Taurus, Ketu goes to Scorpio. And Ketu goes Gandanta. So, again, Gandanta, last degrees of a water sign. So it's when a water sign changes to a fire sign. So, Ketu is leaving the fire sign Sagittarius, going to the water sign Scorpio. So, 28 and 29 degrees. I made a note here of how long that's going to last. Let me see. So that is going to be Oh, damn. Where did I write that? Yeah. So I was going to say 3 months, not quite 3 months. Ketu is going to be Gandanta. It's going to be in those last degrees of Sagittarius. Last degrees of Scorpio, where it feels like it's drowning. It's going to be there till year's end. So Ketu is going to be Ketu, the spiritualist, but on the other side of the coin, like the religious fundamentalist kind of terrorist. It's going to be feeling desperate. It's going to be feeling like it's drowning, and it's going to be flailing, and it can kind of drive people to do some desperate things, some potentially violent things. So in addition to what Mars is doing for September, part of October, and then again in December, you're going to have Ketu. Because Ketu is, in Western astrology, is called the south node of the moon, and it's basically, Ketu represents kind of like, it's our past life mastery. It's where we've come from over the courses of our lifetimes. So it's sort of like our comfort zone. So it's like Ketu in these last degrees of a water sign. Our comfort zone is going to be kind of shaken and challenged. So, for all of us. So, again, people will be acting a little crazy because of this. So, but at the same time, we're going to be feeling more stability from that Rahu and Taurus. Now, let me see. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off on the whole National Security Act thing till the end. So, September 22nd, fall equinox, vernal equinox. So, that's when we have equal night and day. And then the next day, the 23rd, we're going to have longer night than daytime. So, this is where the sun falls. It starts moving. The equinox is when the sun is over the equator. So, after the equinox, after the fall equinox, the sun keeps setting, rising and setting further and further south. So, this is just the time of year when people just get less done. Not as ideal a time to, just kind of to get new things done. But people get new things done at all times and all days of the year. But it's just, especially when you get to November, people's minds turn more towards holidays and just doing all that kind of stuff, and things kind of slow down at work. So this always marks the, if you got stuff you want to get done, hurry up and get it done before the third week in November, because people are going to be kind of checked out. So it's that time of year, and this is a harvest time of the year. So this is sort of the time of the year where we reap what we sowed in the first half of the year. So, since the sun passed the equator going north on the spring equinox. All right, then we're going to jump to the 27th. So, not something I've heard other astrologers talk about, but, I thought this was pretty cool. On the 27th, you have Venus going into Leo. So again, Venus is friendship, it's social activity, it's diplomacy. It's going into Leo. Leo, again, it's the home sign of the sun, ruled by the sun. It's all about rulers, royals, executive figures, so like presidents, for example. And, presidents in the modern U.S., presidents are emperors, and I don't care how badass, freedom-loving, democracy-loving presidents they are. I don't care what great, compassionate progressives you think they are. They're all emperors because they're at the head of organizations that meddle in the affairs of other countries, and they fight overt wars, they fight quiet, dirty wars, and they're imperialists. So they are kings, they are emperors, they are queens, empresses. So the whole point is that Venus, the planet of social activity and friendship, being in Leo, the sign of kings and queens and executives and royals. The way I read this, and it's not surprising, doesn't take an astrologer to tell you this, but rulers and would-be rulers are trying to get friendly with us right now, and they're trying to convince us that they're our buddies and that they have all the answers to all our problems. Now, Leo looks across the zodiac to Aquarius, which is we the people. Now the thing is, Aquarius, the we the people sign, has a retrograde Neptune in there. So Neptune is even more intense than when it's going forward. Neptune is a great revealer, but it's also a great deceiver, because it's all about hidden agendas and conspiracies and things done below board, out of the light of day. So we're either going to have awakenings and notice what these rulers are doing, or or these would-be rulers, or we're going to let them deceive us because we're delusional. So, we'll see what happens. And was there anything else that day? Oh yeah, and then you still have Mars and Uranus in Aries that day. So people are still up in arms and going crazy about what the leadership is doing and overturning the nature of that leadership. And yeah. So then we jump to the 29th of September. 29th of September is a day that Saturn comes out of retrograde. So, like I said, this is a good thing for pretty much all of us, because again, Saturn is government, Saturn is the establishment, it's society. So government will still, like always, there'll be a bunch of juveniles, no matter what party they are, and they'll be fighting and squabbling and calling each other names. But they'll get a little more done. But the thing is the nakshatra, this little mini constellation that is part of, it sort of straddles the line of both Sagittarius and Capricorn. It's Uttarashada. And Uttarashada comes right after, it's the last nakshatra of Sagittarius, which is belief systems and ideologies and religion and spirituality and philosophy. And it goes into Capricorn. So it's not a great constellation for getting things done, because it's all about having all the facts straight, or at least thinking you have all the facts straight, and telling people what they have to do. So it's kind of an armchair quarterback. It's a boss that sits on their ass and tells you what you should be doing and doesn't get in the mix and lead by example. So we're going to have plenty of not leading by example. And this is, in this world, that's the standard. People don't lead by example, but we make excuses for the ones we like, because they're just advertising brands. And advertising and marketing, it's psychology, and it's all about getting inside people's heads and knowing what people want to hear. So these people are all inside our heads, and they're marketing their jive talk to us. And since they've all said the right words, and your people's choice of political party, it's, are you nostalgic about the past, or are you fearful about the future? Right wing is nostalgic about the past, left wing is fearful about the future. So they know your psychology, and they know how to get inside your head. And based on your psychology and how you react to fear, you're going to choose one of those brands. It's just the simple mechanics, psychological mechanics for how these things work. So Saturn will be moving forward. Yeah, things will start getting done, but the leaders are going to be very apparently sitting on their asses talking at us rather than leading by example. But that's normal. But lately, since Saturn's been in this retrograde since, oh my God, that was in May. It certainly felt more like they're just calling each other names and being juveniles. But Saturn, aside from being government, it's also just society in general. It's planning and executing our plans. So, all of us individually, collectively, will be able to execute our plans better. That's always a positive. And I don't think I wanted to add anything to that. In this last half of the month too, Mercury's going to be in Libra, and Libra is those merchant scales, and it's about balance. It's kind of about finding that balance, sometimes through argument, because you've got two sides. So yeah. Oh, here's a triggering opportunity for people. So, I mentioned on the 27th. Yes, 27th. Venus going into Leo. The nakshatra, the mini constellation in Leo that Venus is in, is called Magha. It's Magha, Magha. So this is a mini constellation, a nakshatra, that is part of Leo. So Magha is sort of the ruler of the gods, kind of like a thunder god with an eagle, perched next to him, kind of like Zeus. So it's interesting that you have the Magha and then you have this Magha. So, and when you pull up, and I don't care for Donald Trump. I don't like him. I don't hate him. He's just a puppet. He's just a puppet to a billionaires club, just like Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Franklin Delano Roosevelt or Ronald Reagan was a puppet for a billionaires club. So I don't like him or hate him. He's a showman. He just knows how to piss people off so he can get things done in the dark. All presidents do this. They piss half of the people off. When they're busy being pissed off, they do sneaky shit behind the scenes. Even Barack Obama did this. Donald Trump does it. Every president's always done it. All right. So, yeah, I just pulled up Donald Trump's chart here. He has, in Magha, he has his Mars there. So Mars and Leo in Magha. Let me see. So yeah, that's funny how he has the Magha hat, but he has a very prominent, very powerful planet, Magha, in Magha. Again, which is this constellation, which is part of Leo. So, Freudian slip, I was saying Leo and ego together because there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of ego in Leo. So, Mars is very powerful here because Mars and the Sun are both fiery, and it's Mars in this position gets all that fiery energy. And again, Magha is the king of the gods in this Vedic pantheon. So he has a lot of ability to do things. He is a bullshit artist. His companies have gone bankrupt a gazillion times, but he pulls deals off, and he makes money. So by the world standards, he gets certain things done, and whether you like him or not, it's just where it is. Interesting thing too is he has both his sun and his Rahu in Mrigashira, which is this it's Taurus, and it's where Rahu is going now. Oh, it's where Rahu is now. Rahu is, right now as I make this video, Rahu is in a part of Mrigashira constellation that is in Gemini, but it's going to the part in Taurus. And Donald Trump was born with Rahu. Let me see the degrees here. So yeah, Rahu and the Sun were like less than 2 degrees away in Taurus and Mrigashira. So Rahu is like the master of secrets, and Rahu is the trickster of the gods, kind of like Loki in the Norse pantheon. And tricksters teach us lessons, and they help us to fall into ego traps without even knowing they're doing it. That's the magic of a trickster. They don't really try to, when they try to trick you, they don't do a very good job. It's when they do it unconsciously. They're just sort of living their lives and doing their thing. They set up ego traps for other people and for themselves without even knowing it. So I was born with Rahu in my first house, almost right on my ascendant. So I'm familiar with Rahu. So and let me just check his ascendant here. Yeah, so he's also a Leo ascendant. So his ascendant is also in Maga. So anyway, he has the Sun and Rahu almost right on top of each other. So he has the ability to be a trickster and to, it's like tricksters are sneaky, but they know how to get their enemies to basically fall into their own ego traps. So that's something he knows how to do, because he's a master troll. He trolls people all day, and he gets people all worked up, and while they're worked up about his tweets, he's getting things done without them even knowing it. I'm not praising him, I'm just saying this is how he works. So I think, Rahu going to where it was when he was born, it's going to give him some power to troll his enemies and to basically play on his enemies' egos, because he's got a huge ego. He has a massive galaxy-sized ego, but his enemies and his opponents are no better. They're just as egotistical as he is. I always tell people, if you wonder why Donald Trump is the president, well, go look in a mirror. Counts for me too. It's like, right now in America, we're all arrogant, we're all self-righteous. So his enemies are just like him. So I think you could find through the end of the year and into next year, he's going to be able to engineer situations where his enemies fall into traps that he's set. Tricksters are also masters of secrets. They're like the ultimate flies on the wall, and they hear secrets about people, and they stumble across secrets about people. So, when you're a billionaire and you know all the most powerful people in the world, you tend to learn things about them. And, through experience as an intelligence officer and through knowing billionaires, they all have, and through knowing people who worked in the political world with, very well-known people, they all have dirt on each other. Powerful people, politicians, billionaires, sometimes they're both. They all have dirt on each other. So the Rahu, the Rahu in the world, the transiting Rahu is going to be sitting right where his birth Rahu is or was in his chart. So his ability to, I think he's going to be able to get things done by, using the dirt he has on his enemies. So it's going to be interesting here. Now, it's interesting with the election, there's some possibility because of health reasons that, he or Biden, or maybe neither one of them, will make it to the election. I don't know. Trump's looking very sweaty and greasy and tired. And I mean, Biden has dementia. There's just no way around that. So they're both unhealthy. Maybe one of them will fall out because of health reasons. Maybe both of them will. But if he stays around, he's going to have a lot of ability to set traps for his enemies. And I think to use blackmail against them. I think he got into office because his corporate sponsors, the billionaires that are even wealthier than him that back him, had enough blackmail to place him there. Politics is a game of blackmail. I don't care if you don't think that doesn't go on because it's a democracy and we won World War II and da-da-da-da-da, and, we're so educated, or, whatever. We think we're so worldly. Politics is a game of blackmail in the best countries. So, yeah, I think, on top of all this violence that's going to be going on through this month, through the end of the year, I think some really crazy secrets are going to fly out into the open. Listening to Joni Patrice's stuff, she's been a professional astrologer for a long time, and she's got a lot of time to dig into this stuff. She made a video about Nancy Pelosi's chart, and she talks about right after the election, it looks like Nancy Pelosi will be very happy and celebrating, but then by December, she'll be very angry, kind of depressed, and then by January, she'll suffer a career-ending loss. Her career will be done. So I think this election will definitely go to the Supreme Court, just like in 2000, and I don't think she will like what the Supreme Court has to say who they rule in favor of. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look for old Trumpy having some aces in the hole, some secret information that he had up his sleeve the whole time. So I think that's why he has sort of distanced himself from CIA and why he's had private, intelligence contractors kind of surrounding him and doing his intelligence for him, because CIA is full of moles. And, nobody can trust them. They work for the big banks and they work for the multinationals. And, even Chuck Schumer, Democratic senator from a member of the party of the rule of law, he was getting all over Twitter after the election saying CIA has six ways from Sunday to get back at Donald Trump. Well, according to their charter, which is part of the law, which is legally enforceable, CIA is not supposed to operate domestically, much less sabotage and wage war against the president. So it goes back to where I started this video. Everybody in power is a hypocrite. They're not who you think they are. So don't get so damn angry about it and live your own life. And the news is just a TV show, and it's there for people to make money, and it's there for people to influence you because they know your psychology and they're inside your head. So this is the long one. I'm going to wrap it up here, but if you want to see how this year is going to affect you, how these events are going to affect you, if you have some goals you're trying to accomplish, projects you're trying to launch, I highly recommend a Vedic astrology reading with me. That reading it's basically a roadmap of your life. It shows you secret talents, hidden talents that you have, and how to play to your strengths and how to mitigate your challenges and your weaknesses. I also do rune readings. It's a nice way to make a mind map to see where things are going well for you and see where you're blocked and how to remedy those. Either type of reading, I build you a meditation. I use Sanskrit Vedic mantras for the astrology readings, and I teach you how to meditate on runes to basically to balance your mind, the energies of your mind. So I also have some Qigong videos for sale for download. Great mind-body practice to help you relax and just get your mind off your mind and help you to feel your energy and, you know, really just boost your mood and help your mind work more efficiently. So anyway, that's that. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Have a good one.